Welcome back. In a little while, we're going to take a thorough, good look at Donald Trump's speech in Davos. He's made a few this week, and they're getting more jaw-dropping by the day. As I said to Isabel just now, I thought his speech in Davos today started off well and then kind of rambled off into some very strange areas. But we'll talk more in depth about that later. But just so as we can set the scene for this next item we're going to talk about, he did overarchingly tell two-tier Keir, Macron, and all the other European nations to straighten out their countries. Let's have a little look.
Get a little bit rough when they're, when I'm not around, but when I'm around, they treat me very nicely. And, I like both of them. They're both liberal. They've got to straighten out their countries. You can't, London is having a lot of problems, and if you look at Paris, got a lot of problems. They have two problems, immigration and energy. They got to stop with the windmills, and they got to go back like UK has an unbelievable asset called the North Sea. Norway uses it, makes a fortune. They have a better section of it, and they don't do it.
Wrong, Donald. We got three problems here. Definitely immigration, definitely energy, net zero madness, absolutely. Migrant crisis spiraling out of control, absolutely. What he forgot, Isabel, was our deranged welfare system, and that's what I want to talk about now. It has transpired today with new statistics, shock news statistics, have revealed that we are now handing out, or we have handed out in the past year, no need to ever work benefits to 1.5 million more people. These are people who are told you will get full benefits for the rest of your life. You don't have to look for a job. You never have to work. Some people obviously would deserve that, some people, but 1.5 million more in the last year, I doubt that somehow, but 1.5 million more on the list of people with no need ever to work for the rest of their days has now brought that total to 4.9 million. Basically 5 million people in this country are now living off the state with no requirement to get a job for the rest of their days. If you add that to more statistics, altogether 8.3 million people are out of work and on universal credit. That's more than 10% of the country. And if you distill that down to the workforce, because of course, 70 million population includes a lot of kids and a lot of old people who are too old to work. So probably we're talking 15% easily of the entire working population are out of work and on universal credit. So 8.3 million out of work, 4.9 million of them, 5 million of them, will never have to work again. So the country has generously told them, for the rest of your days, we will give you the money you need to exist. And that number has spiraled, rocketed over the last year by 1.5 million people. Now, this more than ever depicts a welfare state, depicts Britain as a welfare state with a country attached. This is unworkable. This is untenable. This is economically disastrous. You cannot have prosperity if 15%, maybe even more, of the workforce aren't working, and the majority of them have been told you never have to work again. This is lunacy, absolute lunacy.
It is completely insane, and it's not even desirable to write people off in that way. They may think at the time, with whatever the condition is that they're suffering from at the time, that they never want to work again. But actually, so much richer would their lives be in every different way if they could be encouraged and helped to get better enough with whatever the affliction is, to actually be part of the workforce, to actually be a net benefit to society economically. I think this is not only a scandal, it is also a tragedy. We are just doing the easiest possible thing. You know, Whitehall pen pushers and the companies to whom this work is contracted out are doing the easiest possible thing, ticking a box, and actually the price tag attached to ticking the box that says you never need to work again, you never need to be assessed again, is astronomical. It's not only the cost of supporting that person for the rest of their lives, but the opportunity cost. It's what they're not producing as well. And I just think it's incredibly sad and incredibly unsustainable. And there are a small number of people who really do need and deserve that help. I mean, it'd be an awful thing if you've got terminal cancer to have to endlessly prove you've got terminal cancer or other profound disabilities that have no chance of getting better. But if what you've got is, I don't know, for the sake of argument, back pain that no one's quite able to identify what's caused it, I don't think we should ever write anybody off in that fashion.
Well, no, exactly. And, you know, clearly 8.3 million people, we are hurling benefits at people far too easily. And that's the Labour ethos, isn't it? That is Labour's system, whereby, you know, you... what's the word? You go easy, you're lenient on people. Many of these people, let's face it, they're swinging the lead, they're skivers, they're lazy.
Well, I'll tell you how you slightly know that many of these people are swinging the lead, because if you're in any town centre, let's say, you know, in the middle of a Monday morning or early on a Tuesday afternoon, you know, these town centres and shopping malls and stuff are full of people, young people, fit people, who are quite obviously not working. Now, of course, some of them will be shift workers, I get that, and some of them will be on annual leave, although frankly not that many in early January. But I've really noticed an explosion in the number of people who are quite patently got nothing much to do for most of the day, every day. And it would be quite interesting, wouldn't it, to do a little, you know, spot check, you know, in an average shopping mall somewhere on a Monday morning and just ask how many of those people milling around, because they're certainly not all retirees. A lot of young people, you know, flitting around doing nothing. How many of them are actually on benefits?
Yeah, and what these people are doing, as I say, I'm not saying that every single benefit claimer is a scrounger and doesn't deserve it, far from it. You know, we have a welfare benefits system. It's there for people who deserve it. You know, hard-working people who've just lost their jobs, people who've had accidents, people who are disabled, etc., etc. But let's face it, 8.9 million, and then 1.5 million. So according to the government, 1.5 million people in the past 12 months have become unable to work. That's ridiculous. Yeah. That's ridiculous. And, you know, these people, all welfare claimers, are not contributing to the economy. They are feeding off the economy, and therefore the economy becomes more sluggish. In fact, this is in terms of the economy of Britain, is a recipe for outright disaster. It is really worrying.
It really is worrying. And, you know, if Britain were really, truly, genuinely that sick, you know, you'd just be seeing endless people in, what was it they were called? What do we call those mobility scooters? We had a funny discussion about.
Oh no, you mustn't call them invalid carriages.
Invalid carriages. The streets would be chock full of invalid carriages. There'd be people hobbling around everywhere. Everybody would be looking sickly. It's just not the case, is it? You know, it just isn't. I mean, of course, the truly sick people are indoors. But I come back to my point that there are an awful lot of people milling around shopping centres during the day, during the working week, who are not students, they are not on school holidays, they're not pensioners, they are perfectly fit and healthy people of working age who are swinging the lead. And before anyone says it, I know not all disabilities are visible,
of course,
but a lot of them are.
And the last point to make about this is among this 8.9 million, and particularly the 4.9 million who've been told you don't have to work for the rest of your life. You know, some of them will be quite young people. There are many people who've been written off due to mental health problems, anxiety, depression, and again, of course, some of them will deserve it. Some mental health issues will prevent you from working. Some depression, some anxiety is crippling. You know, fair enough. But let's face it, just writing people off for the rest of their lives because they say they're a bit depressed or they've got anxiety is a thing, and it needs to be stopped. Because the number of people with nothing wrong with them apart from the fact they claim to have mental health issues are being told, don't worry, you don't have to work for the rest of your life, and here's government money for you. That is not healthy, and that is disastrous for the economy. By the way, you know, when we had that discussion last week about what the story was, that the government was going to spend quite a lot of money rewriting the legislation on mobility scooters because in this legislation, which was written back in the 70s, mobility scooters tended to be called invalid carriages. So they were going to spend a fortune, I think they're still going to do it actually, to rewrite the legislation so it doesn't contain this offensive term, invalid carriages. And you and I said, that's ridiculous, you know. Does anyone care that much? Mobility scooters, invalid carriages, what's the difference? This is absurd, wokery gone mad. So later in the show, a really nice old lady rang up and I felt really, she said, I very much object to calling them invalid carriages. I have got a mobility scooter and it gives me my independence. I don't see why I should be classified as a invalid. So I go, yeah, absolutely. I totally see your point. You know, so I felt a bit bad about that.
But the point is that no one uses that terminology anyway. I bet no one has ever said, "Oh, go and park your invalid carriage out there."
Well, they certainly don't now. They certainly don't now. They did used to use that term. But I just think it's just like sensitivity gone crazy. I don't want them to waste millions of pounds of my tax money just changing words on legislations because they've become offensive since they were first written. That's ridiculous. But when that nice old lady put me in my place, I sort of said, oh, yeah, I do agree with you. We must change the legislation.
You're a sellout.
Yeah, I know. I got the spine of a backbone of a jellyfish. But anyway, let's go to break.